Some places require dielectric unions on the welty. In some instances, it's nice to have that union, but I don't want to throw this galvanized steel in on a brass welty. So again, I'm just going to take it apart at the male adapter and put it back in that way. Yep, that's what's up. Okay. Oh yeah, look at it moving now. Okay. nice to clean while it's still good and hot. I'm going to reuse this male adapter. Still a little warm. that on there like that. And we're making progress. Okay, so I haven't soldered this simply because I wanted everything to line up. One thing I am going to do before I solder is put these two together. I didn't have any liquid pipe dope with me down the truck, so I just put some Teflon on here. This beveled edge right here is your seal. Don't matter how much you put on them threads, how much you put on these threads here, if that beveled edge is leaking, it's going to leak. So I'm going to get that roughly where it needs to be at. Before I solder. Over here. I'm only doing that because I didn't bring my flux brush in and I didn't put a whole lot on the inside of it. Joint looks like it's bubbling. That may be the joint making that noise. and it may work out better. Okay, I think that worked out a lot better for us. If it was cleaner and had more flux on it, it may not have acted as bad as it did. Because that was a crappy solder joint. Okay, let's cool it down by opening this up and letting some water come back in there. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten the unit back up. Okay. Alright, so I need to put on my gauge or my pressure switch. I don't see where I set it. Okay. I always, it's got Teflon on it, but as we're looking at the threads, I always wrap my Teflon like this, because that's the same way that my fitting is going to screw on and it won't push the Teflon off. If you put the Teflon on the other direction, then it's going to get pushed off when you thread your nipple in or coupling or whatever you're threading into it. This is a 40-60 switch, meaning the pump will kick off at 60 pounds and it will kick on at 40 pounds. Sandpaper and scratch these wires up so they're clean. We get a good connection. If they're too bad, sometimes I'll just cut them off and recreate them. Re-loop them and all that. A lot of times it's nice having them circled like that, because you can take the screw off, put it in there, and then place it how you want it. I'm going to go ahead and get them bent so that they're ready to go into place. Okay. I guess I could turn that pressure switch around a little bit. Put the wire that has no insulation on it as your ground. Sometimes referred to as a raw ground. I put it on first, just because it's the hardest to mess with. I'm going to go ahead and take that screw all the way out. Put it into that wire. Oh, that's cute. So that's why you don't do that. I'll go ahead and line it up. Let's see if I can find where that screw went. There it is. this switch is divided. This side is 115, this side is 115. So this one, I believe, is the one that goes to the pump. So I'm going to put one of its wires on that side, and then its other wire I'm going to put on the other side. If you're not sure whether you got a 115 or 220, sometimes they refer to it as 240 pump, then just color code your wires. You gotta match them up based on their color. Here's my other one. Hands are going numb. Okay. Supposed to be clamps here that hold that wire into place. Are they important? Yeah. But I'm going to skip them because I don't have any, and I didn't realize this one didn't have any on it. One thing I try to do with my wires is whichever way I'm going to be tightening the nut down is the way I'll make it loop, because if you try to do it the other way, the nut will push the wire out. I was talking about the way I looped it around the shaft of the screw. So if you have a 115 pump, I've got white on this side. I'm going to jump the white one on this side. If you've got a 240, 220, 230, whatever you want to call it, but it's a double breaker, and that means you've got a 240 pump, and it don't matter if you color code these wires or not. Each side of the switch is one lead of power. 115, 120, 110, whatever you want to call it. Just about done. And this will be pretty much all there is to installing a pressure switch. Hands are numb. Bad carpal tunnel. Okay, so simple. And this is why that works. Because on this side, when the power's on, see right now it's calling for pressure. So these contacts are engaged. I've got the power off, otherwise you wouldn't be able to touch them. When it's not calling for water or pressure, they'll be on that side. And see how this one goes through there and jumps the power? It does that on each side. But again, right now they're engaged because it's calling for pressure. Because we don't have any in the system, we don't have it hooked up all the way. Now, this is the only thing I don't like about this particular kind of cover. Sometimes they're a pain in the butt to put on. Okay, now we can put our gauge on because everything else is practically done. Again, the only purpose of the gauge is to help diagnose what may be going on with the system in the future if something should happen. Okay, practically done. Now all I gotta do is go back out there and get a barb fitting, put it inside here, screw it in to this side, so you can either go 1 inch on the outside or 3/4 threads on the inside. That's how these are set up. They're double threaded, so it's got 3/4 threads in there. The barb fitting I brung down slides inside this pipe too easy, so I want to get one that has bigger edges. Okay, there's a couple different kind of barb fittings. This one I'm sure I got from the supply house. This one I'm sure I got from Lowe's. The barbed pieces are a little bit thicker, more ridges, a little bit longer. I bet this one fits better. You really could almost get away without using hose clamps. I like to put 2 of them on there just for good measure. I always suggest putting those on first. Yeah, you can see how this one won't just slide in there like that other one was. And that's where the rubber mallet will come in handy. Some people will heat these up with a torch. Makes it a little easier to screw them in. Or I mean, push them in there. I like just beating them in with the rubber mallet. Then we will try to screw these threads into that side of the well tee. Maybe a little tricky, but we'll get it done. If I was going to screw the threads into the well tee first, then I would probably heat the pipe up. General idea. These are 5/16, so you can either use a ratchet or I got a 5/16 nut driver. Because this pump is a submersible pump and it's not above ground, we don't have to prime it. All we have to do is flip the breaker on to get water in the system. Now, I always suggest, just in case you've got solder joints that could potentially leak, or maybe with all this you forgot to tighten something up, I always suggest dealing with your shut your main valve off, then turn your breaker on. That way if there's a leak, it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to drain the system and deal with all that crap. Okay, Miss Miller, go ahead and turn it on. Okay, so I got her turning the water on. You can hear it coming in. It should kick off at about 60 because it's a 40-60. Yeah, looks good. It's a 40-60 switch. I don't hear anything hissing or spraying, so we don't have any leaks. You know, there could be something dripping, but I'm doubting it. So now I'm going to turn the main valve on. And pressurize the house. I've done a video talking about packing nuts. This packing nut on this valve is right here. So if it starts dripping out of the bottom of the stem, then you just tighten that nut up. And you're going to tighten it up clockwise. So, but that's it. We successfully replaced a bladder tank, well T, pressure switch, gauge, and so on. Hope that helps you. And we're going to be replacing this bladder tank and switch and well T from the plastic pipe to the copper. Some of the tools that would be useful to have are some kind of adjustable pliers. I like having small and big. Get some wire cutters. This is an odd style pipe wrench, so any kind of pipe wrench. Rubber mallet. Get a wire brush for cleaning some threads if I need to. Some kind of plastic pipe cutter. That's what those are. Some kind of Teflon tape or pipe sealant. Screwdriver. Flashlight. Okay, some of the parts we're going to use is, of course, a new bladder tank. A well T. Most of the time they look like this. I'm going to use this one because it has a union on it to make it easy for replacement if we ever have to in the future. We've got a new pressure switch. Most all of them look like that. The covers just look different. This happens to be what Lowe's sells. I got 2 new hose clamps. I've got a 3/4 by 1 inch barbed fitting that I'm going to put in one side of my well T. I've got a 1 inch by 3/4 bushing brass. I've got a new valve to go on the front of the well T. Of course, a new pressure gauge up to 100 pounds, 1/4 inch on the bottom. I've got a bull plug, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch by 3.5 brass nipple, a 1 inch check valve. Okay. Let me see if I can get you set up so you can see what I'm doing. Alright. Of course, I've already killed the breaker, so there's no power to the unit at all. You can start wherever you want as far as taking this stuff apart. I don't know why, but I happen to start at the pressure switch. A little 1/4 inch or 5/16 nut on top of it that you can typically unscrew by hand. And pop the cover off. I know the pump's off because this one was spraying at the tank. So I'm not even going to hit it with the electric tester. But I am going to start getting it disconnected here. Now this pump happens to be a 220 pump. So each one of these lines, electric lines coming in, has 115 on it. The only thing that you have to remember or know is going to be which side was to the pump and which side is to the house. So I'm following this wire Looks like it goes up over in that direction, and then over and out, because it's over there by where the sewer system goes out. So I'm going to assume that that one's to our pump. Again, each one of these wires have 115 on it because our pump is 220. So it don't necessarily matter which way you hook them back up, just as long as you're keeping in mind you're jumping these wires to this wire through the switch. So like if you were going to wire nut them together, it's just about how you would hook them up to the switch. And you can't really go backwards because each one of these wires have 115 on them. Normally it's, there's so many different colors they could use. One of them's black, one of them's white. The only thing that you do not want to hook up or mismatch is going to be the ground. And it normally connects to a screw right there. And each side is hooked up on this one. Now sometimes I'll see where they don't hook them up, but you should, it's important. Those are so rusted, they're not gonna come off, so I'm just gonna cut them. I wonder if I can pull this from under there. Yeah, there we go, I got this side. Now what about this side? Nice. So I'm gonna have to cut them. The only importance to the pressure gauge really is for diagnosing purposes. So you don't necessarily have to put one in. I highly advise for you to do so, because if there's ever a problem when it comes time to try to diagnose what's going on with your system, you're going to want that gauge to be present. Okay, so I got the power disconnected. On this one, I'm going to be, I don't normally do this, but because of the condition of all these fittings, I'm replacing everything. So I'm going to start off of our well pipe, the plastic stuff that comes in from outside. A lot of taking this stuff apart is self-explanatory, but I'm going to show you how I do it. Anyway, see, that's seized up. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off. I'm going to try to cut as close to the T as I possibly can. I'm going to move the camera just in case, because I don't want it to get wet. And open this drain valve right here to help some of that water relieve itself. I'm also going to shut the house main so that I don't have to worry about that water bleeding back. Okay, nice. Funny, it stopped immediately. So I got that nice and cut. That's a little bigger than that. No, that's good. It's just old. That's alright, no worries. Okay. In some cases you do need copper cutters, and you do need to do some soldering of the pipe. I'm going to try to just screw my welty onto the existing copper. So in that case I won't have to do the soldering. That fitting is plastic. Yep, it sure is. I hate using those. Where it goes from here into here, you normally use a barbed fitting, like something like that. I don't like using the plastic ones because they always seem to be a problem, especially when it comes time to taking them out. Boy, oh boy. I'm gonna have to use a torch or tube cutters to get this tee out. There don't seem to be as much play as I remembered. So we'll do that here in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and jump over here and start assembling the bladder. So on the bottom it's 90. Remember, I'm using the kind with the union. You don't want your nut to fall off. Ever. Because it's fresh water, I'm using Teflon tape. There's nothing wrong with using liquid pipe dope. Except for the fact that you gotta kind of worry about it going into the water system. I could have done this outside and not in the crawl space. It sure would have been a lot easier. In a lot of cases, you're going to want to hold on to this 90 so that it don't bend the bottom of the tank. And that's where your pipe wrench, one place your pipe wrench couldn't cover the That's why this one can be a pain in the butt. I'm pleased with that. I would like to put some kind of liquid pipe sealant on there. It would sure make things a lot nicer. So with this system, we've got our feed from our well pump coming in on the plastic, goes through the welty and then starts feeding the house. So I'm going to set mine up accordingly. You can put the check valve on that side or that side. I've planned mine to go on this side. It don't matter which side you put your pressure gauge on or your pressure switch. It don't matter, you can flip them. Same thing with on here. It don't matter which side you have the ball valve or the hose bib boiler drain valve on. You know what? If I plan on screwing this into the copper pipe, I'm not going to want all my fittings on there. However, I can't get the other T off without cutting the copper pipe, so it ain't going to matter in this situation. Now with your check valve, they normally have an arrow on them telling you the direction of the water. You can more or less look inside. On this one, this is where the water goes in. You see the arrow there. So you're going to want to put it in direction as it should be. I'm going to choose to do my pressure switch last so that it's not in my way, along with my gauge, because I've got a union on this welty. Another thing that's nice about Teflon is when I do soldering, and I screw that male copper adapter in here to do my soldering on here, the heat won't melt the Teflon that's inside here, and your seal will still be good. So this is basically how I'm going to set my welty up. And then I'm going to screw the union on to here, stand that bladder upright, and then put it in place of there. Now I'm going to stop recording for a moment, and then I'll start back up when I start putting everything in place.